Somalia. When's the last time you heard anything about Somalia? The US media apparently can't be bothered to report on a country they've been bombing for 3 decades, which is great, right? Because unlike Iraq and Afghanistan, which have proven to be deeply unpopular, no one talks about Somalia, right? The American public can't complain about a war that they don't know about. Now, asked what it's doing there, the US claims to be fighting a group affiliated to Al-Qaeda called Al-Shabaab. And in a nutshell, here you have a situation, again, of Western powers claiming to fight the same terrorist groups that they helped create, with Britons making up 25% of Al-Shabaab's foreign fighters in 2012, for example. And in order to justify bombing Somalia, the US did what it did to all other countries targeted by the war on terror. It either exaggerated or just made up ties to Al-Qaeda. At first, George Bush was using ground raids, then airstrikes, and then Obama becomes president, and he starts using those drones that he loves so much. And when Trump took over, he just ramped up the drone strikes even more. Now, of course, the US claims that the majority of the people it kills are terrorists and not civilians, which is hard to believe when they consider anything that moves to be a terrorist. Under humanitarian purposes, slaughtered dozens of Somalis in July and October of 1993. And to add insult to injury, the US then tries to paint itself as the victim and the hero in this movie Black Hawk Down, which is, not surprising when you find out the Department of Defense co-wrote the script.
It sometimes turns out that way.
Yeah, literally, that's the thing. The Pentagon subsidizes pro-war movies. It's propaganda. So whether it's state building or counterterrorism, the US always finds a reason to be there. And even when Trump withdrew US forces earlier this year, they didn't actually withdraw. They just moved their bases next door to Djibouti and Kenya and attacked from there instead. Just last month, Joe Biden, what did he do? He bombed Somalia, picking up where his predecessors left off. So has US intervention and occupation made Somalia safer and better, or more dangerous and poorer? If you look at 2016, there were 150 unique armed groups in Somalia, which is 3 times more than in 2010, according to the Brookings Institution. And just like Iraq spilled over to Syria, Afghanistan spilled over to Pakistan, this war has also spilled over to Kenya. There have been 150 attacks by Al-Shabaab in Kenya, including one in 2015 at a Kenyan college campus that killed almost 150 people. So not only is Somalia more dangerous compared to before, but so are its neighbors. And in the last decades, hundreds of thousands of people have left Somalia because of war and famine. According to the UN, there are 750,000 Somali refugees in neighboring countries and over 2.5 million displaced internally. And if we compare to 1990, the number of Somali refugees and migrants outside the country has literally doubled. Somalia is even poorer than it was in 1960. The poverty rate currently sits at around 70%. Centuries of European colonialism, followed by decades of US bombings, and this is the result that you get. So if you've been paying attention, you should know that this has nothing to do with humanitarian endeavors or counterterrorism. The real reason America is in Somalia is the same reason the British and Italian empires were, for their geostrategic and economic interests. Somalia is located right on the Gulf of Aden, on the doorstep of the Red Sea, where so many of the world's cargo ships, oil tankers, and vessels come through carrying valuable supplies and cargo for the West. Not to mention that Somalia itself also happens to sit on a lot of uranium and oil. How practical. To bomb Somalia, the United States already stretched the AUMF 2001 beyond belief, but there's an entire shadow war in Africa going on. In order to run its empire more effectively, the US divides up its military according to different regions in the world. One of those is AFRICOM, or Africa Command. Out of 54 countries in Africa, the United States has military advisors in 50 of them. And even the most bloodthirsty warmongers and neocons like Lindsey Graham and John McCain apparently didn't know the US had thousands of troops in Niger till it was reported that 4 of them were killed in 2017.
I didn't know there was 1,000 troops in Niger.
You heard Senator Graham there. He didn't know we had 1,000 troops in Niger. Did you?
No, I did not.
As you can see, Somalia's predicament is the result of America's endless imperialist projects and the product of its war on terror. It's emblematic of where these things lead. If the United States had never interfered and done nothing at all in the first place, everything would have been much better for everyone, everywhere.